Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today at Picterra on our webinar about the benefits of using geospatial intelligence in ESG and commitments and disclosure. My name is Samantha Bilski-Madiou. I joined Picterra in 2021 as part of the commercial team, and now I focus on helping companies uncover risks and opportunities, as well as track and monitor their environmental impact. Presenting with me today is Roger Fong. Hi, Roger. I will let you introduce yourself to the audience.
Hey, everybody. My name is Roger. I'm a machine learning and computer vision engineer here at Picterra. I've been here for about 3 years. And today I'll be giving you a demo of one of our technical solutions, as well as answering any of your technical questions at the end of the presentation. So nice to meet all of you.
Thanks a lot, Roger. A little bit about Picterra now. We're a Swiss-based company. We were launched in 2016 in Lausanne. Our mission is to enable enterprises to build their own satellite or drone-based geospatial program, thanks to an AI end-to-end solution. We have lately focused our research and development on ESG reporting and monitoring, helping organizations track, report, communicate on environmental and social impact, which is crucial towards a thriving, sustainable future. And as the world takes steps and implements regulations towards building a climate-safe future, we provide backup for ambitious actions. I would like to share this citation with you from Alison Heron-Lee. Now, more than ever, investors are considering climate-related issues when making their investment decisions. It is our responsibility to ensure that they have access to material information when planning for their financial future. This is really why we're here today, material information. With satellite imagery more available to corporations, you can now use geospatial intelligence platforms to analyze and report on said material information. So how does AI fit into ESG targets, you might ask? So over the past decade, evaluating ESG has gone from a nice-to-have peer tool to a mandatory component of industrial organizations and public companies. However, on the other hand, embedding ESG in internal and external processes and reporting is far from being standardized yet. And investors, as well as international organizations and governments, are expecting full transparency from corporations on sustainability goals and actions. So how can geospatial intelligence and alternative data combined help your organization comply with external expectations? And most importantly, what are the long-term benefits and business benefits for you? Our agenda today will cover how ESG and geospatial intelligence fit together. Then Roger will perform a live demo of one of the solutions that we have designed around an oil spill. Then we will see how industrial organizations and manufacturers can turn it into an opportunity. And we'll finish with a 15 Q&A session. So to answer the question, how does geospatial intelligence and ESG fit together? Let's go over some clear use cases in each of the three following categories. Starting with the most obvious one, environment. We can think of two cases here. The first one, how do you avoid another Deepwater Horizon ecological and PR disaster? All spillage are visible from space. They're very visible, actually. And it's as simple as detecting the water color change, which can be automated with artificial intelligence. Preventing ecological risks with geospatial intelligence simply means spotting the leakages early on and deploying your task force at the right spot at the right time to fix the damage before the incident reaches its point of no return. It also helps track the progress of the cleaning, which we will elaborate later on in our demo. In the Deepwater Horizon case, however, not much could have been done to prevent this incident, as the leak was pretty uncontrollable. But what shareholders in the public eye might want to see in a similar case today is the aftermath. What is the direct impact on the environment? how fast was the cleaning. We want to see the progress and actions taken on the ground, week after week, and hold the company responsible for the crisis accountable to the public, accountable to the government, accountable to the environment. Another use case that we can think of is preventing deforestation and monitoring farmer practices in your supply chains. You might remember in 2018 when Greenpeace uncovered that top-tier FMCG corporations were working with farmers who were burning down land illegally to plant their palm trees to grow their business faster. Well, thanks to drone and satellite imagery today, it's easy for companies to monitor remotely on their supply chains and to report on sustainability commitments. This goes from counting trees to comparing archive and new imagery to extract the progress of reforestation, for example, or getting alerts when illegal logging takes place. It is particularly relevant for coffee and chocolate companies who might want to be sure that when sourcing palm oil, they're complying with the RSPO label, for example, so they're not deforesting illegally. Speaking of third-party suppliers, we can move on to our next vertical, the oh so forgotten S in ESG, the social aspect. So how do you use geospatial intelligence to track your social and humanitarian efforts? And how do you protect your labor force? There are many ways to go for corporations when ensuring the well-being of the communities that they work with. Two that come to mind are preventing labor violations in your supply chain on the one hand, or on the other hand, ensuring that what the local workers have access to. Using satellite imagery, you can monitor that there are enough schools around, latrines, decent housings. These are all rules that are now being applicable by international organizations when looking after the regulations working with local labor. Or you can assess the cleanliness and the level of watersheds around industrial or farm sites. A mining company in Australia is actually reporting at this day about the level of their watersheds around their plants. All of this can be tracked with top-down 2D imagery and counted automatically thanks to machine learning. So if you spot a violation, you can easily take actions and maintain a high compliance to international labor standards and regulations. Your suppliers are held accountable, and you can have proof, visible proof of any wrongdoing on site, and you can take action. Speaking of international regulations, let's move on to governance. Many jurisdictions, either through regulation or listing standards, require a certain level of ESG reporting and disclosure from companies to provide investors with material ESG-related information. As you may be aware, as of Q4, all American public companies will have to disclose and report on ESG to the SEC. It was just passed a few days ago by the House of Representatives. So the topic of materiality is a big one. Investors, regulators, and the industry altogether continue to hold discussions as to whether to adopt standards on material ESG information, but definitions and what is considered material still need to be sorted out. Geospatial intelligence and alternative data can help corporations report on and benchmark their KPIs and show proof that is not just the numbers and graphs, but actual visible proof thanks to imagery. You can also use archive imagery and the latest imagery up to date, simply superpose them and outline the progress, like reforestation, for example, which enables regulatory auditing. To conclude on this part, we would like to show you a live demo and report that we designed for an oil spill cleaning progress. Bear in mind that this Picterra solution was built as a demo to illustrate the Picterra workflow. Every module within Picterra can be customized. So we're going to show you just a raw version, but we have clients, for example, who expect to have PDF reports, others who want to have email notifications. You can have graphs, and they can be white labeled, of course, to be adapted to your graphic chart and your branding. It's all with the goal to fit an enterprise unique KPIs and technological needs. Sorry, Roger, you can take it away now.
Thanks, Samantha. Let me just share my screen here real quick. Okay, hopefully you should be able to see my screen. So this is the demo I would like to show you guys. And to keep in mind that the full end-to-end Picterra solution involves a lot of different parts. It starts at the satellite imagery, then moves to the training of detectors on the platform, which then moves to processing of that imagery using those detectors, and then finally to a finalized report or a dashboard, as Samantha was saying. And so this, what I'm showing you right now, is this dashboard. And it's a very important element of the end-to-end solution because it's really the final product. And this is what is going to let, say, an oil plant manager really gain insights from the machine learning and geospatial information by presenting all that info in a way that they can easily digest and make decisions and gain insights. So in this particular example, we are monitoring an oil spill on the Fios or Aus River in Albania. And basically there's these oil fields here. And they are quite close to this, this wildlife reserve river. It's considered one of the last wild rivers in Europe. And there are multiple tributaries that are flowing into the river nearby, and these all present potential risk sites where the oil can flow into the main river and then damage the actual wildlife there. And so what we can do here is we can monitor each of these different sites and the events that are happening at these sites using satellite imagery. So in this example here, let's go to this particular site. So you see the area we're monitoring, the yellow box. The machine learning model behind this has detected the oil spill here in the red. And so this signals to the plant manager that they need to start a cleanup process. So now we move to the next observation here. And you see, if you compare between the two different images, that the amount of oil has receded a bit and they've cleared away a lot of the riverbank. However, in the next observation, you'll see that the oil spill has once again increased, and that means that a new cleanup operation might need to take place. Finally, in the last observation, you can see that much of the riverbank has been cleared and the oil has receded quite a bit and poses now still some threat, but less of a threat than before for the river. And so all these different events can be summarized and seen using this timeline here. So you see many different events and sites, and you can actually click on these different events to zoom to these events and these observations on the map that I just showed you. Finally, there's also this dashboard here, which shows you key metrics about the oil spill, and it could be different things such as the overall progress of cleanup operations, or the trends, or how much oil there is in the river as a function of time. And as Samantha was saying, this can be customized to the needs of the plant manager. So it's not fixed as this. This is really up to the person using this app to decide. One thing I forgot to mention is that you can also automatically receive alerts. So when an observation takes place and detects an increase in oil, you can receive an automatic email alert saying that something has happened and that the site needs to be managed. So that's basically the entire demo I want to give you. And if you want to take a look at this yourself, feel free to contact us and then we can give you access to play around with it. Great, that's it.
Thanks a lot, Roger. So this sums up perfectly what we were saying in the environmental part, for example, of ESG monitoring. This is a very interesting feature for the oil and gas industry. You can just get an alert that there's been an oil spill, get the GPS coordinates, and you can just send the right team at the right time and take care of it and fix it before it reaches the point of no return. So based on what we just covered, one question arises. How do you turn all these compliance and regulations into business opportunities? First of all, it's about having access to Earth observation and the right tool. Democratizing AI is a key target for us to helping enterprises reach ESG KPIs. Then bringing geospatial intelligence and alternative data to sustainability managers or anyone working in ESG, EHS, or CSR departments can help them get their job done by spotting trends or detecting change from imagery. But obviously there are long-term benefits for the public companies or any company, and these are just some examples, but not limited to. One, you can protect and improve your company's reputation and avoid any new PR disasters. You can improve your asset risk profiling by uncovering environmental risks or doing climate change assessment before committing to an investment. For companies, you can gain access to capital as ESG is now a key component investment decision. Looking at our ESG investors here in the audience today, we know you want ESG scoring and proof of action and proof of risks to protect your assets. And finally, be ahead of the regulations before they hit you hard with substantial fines. How do you get started on building your own geospatial program? First, we have to gather the imagery. Either you have your own drone imagery or aerial imagery from a plane or helicopter photos, or we can get satellite imagery from our providers at Airbus or Skywatch. We only work with top-down 2D imagery. Then you need to build the infrastructure, and that's when deep learning and machine learning come in. We create detectors, we have to train them. This is how machine learning works. Anything that is visible to the eye, the machine will be able to detect. So we have to train our algorithm to recognize certain objects, and then it will automatically count or segment. And finally, which is the most important part for you, get to your dashboard and reports. And like I mentioned before, this is the part that we want to customize to fit your needs, your business needs. What is it you want out of the reports? What is it you want to measure? What is it you want in your KPIs? We have companies simply looking at tree counting because they're doing carbon offsetting, so they're replanting trees. We have companies looking at email notifications when there is a breach. It can be anything, can be discussed here. So to conclude, and before we move on to our Q&A session, while some organizations can still voluntarily disclose information regarding their ESG effort and their environmental impact, it is already mandatory for many corporations, and governments and international organizations are now making it mandatory for all public companies to respond to the growing pressure from internal and external stakeholders to make organizations accountable for their operations and their impact on the environment. So circling back here to our problem statement, why do organizations need geospatial intelligence and alternative data to commit to ESG? You can get data on environmental risks, prove your sustainability actions, and you will provide your stakeholders with proof, no matter which metrics and material value drivers for your business. This is an opportunity for companies to build upon ESG target, to shift towards that direction, to protect the future of the planet, and to be fully transparent on your ecological impact. Now, we would like to dig a little deeper and take some questions so we can discuss further together. You can add your questions to the chat box, which is on your window right now. So I see, okay, I just received a question about use cases that we're working on right now. One that is interesting is coffee. So we're working with one international coffee brand who is using our technology to look at their biodiversity protection, but it's actually coincidental, helping in 3 directions. They're looking at shadow trees, so they will produce better coffee. But by doing so, they're allowing better biodiversity, because if there's shadow, then more animals can come. Another one that is interesting is one that has been brought up by a tea company. They want to ensure that their workforce on their supply chain have access to toilets, schools, decent housing. So this is what they're monitoring. Before planting a new farm, they want to look around and see how many schools are in the area, for example. We're also partnering with a carbon offsetting tree company, and we're just doing tree counting. It's very easy, very basic, but this is allowing them to show to the companies that they have as clients how many trees they have planted on their behalf. Okay, another question. There's one for you, Roger. What are the pros and cons of satellite versus drone imagery?
Well, the main difference is probably in resolution. So with drone imagery, you tend to get much higher resolution. You can even go into sub-millimeter resolution if you really want to. And as a result of that, you can detect very, very small objects with a lot of detailed things at very high accuracy. However, the cons is that you need to hire a drone service provider, obviously, to take a flight over a region of interest. Now, with satellite imagery, it's a bit of a different ballgame, but there are definitely many uses for that as well. The demo we just showed you is actually using 50 centimeter satellite imagery from the Pleiades satellites. And the benefit of satellite is that you gain scale in 2 different axes. You gain scale in time, because the satellite, so it's revisiting a certain area multiple times, which lends itself very naturally to things like change and monitoring applications. The other thing is that because these satellites are rotating around the whole world, you tend to get scale, which means that you can run detections and do processing at on a much larger geographical region. So it really depends on what your use case is. As I said before, with satellite, the one drawback is that the resolution is lower. So you need to be careful about what you choose in terms of your use case as well. But it really depends on what you're trying to do.
Thanks, Roger. There's a follow-up question. What about SAR data and going around cloud coverage?
So SAR data is interesting. It's kind of I'm not going to say it's a new thing, but it's still a kind of a hot topic. So one drawback of satellite imagery is that there are clouds sometimes, and it can be affected also by lighting conditions. So if it's hazy, or if the image is taken in the evening, in the morning, the image quality itself can change. And so SAR is quite cool, because with SAR, you can see through clouds. It's not using optical data, it's using radar. So you get none of these issues with cloud cover, which, as you imagine, could be a problem in say tropical regions where you're trying to do deforestation. It's usually rain a lot of times of the year. And the other nice thing is that it's also invariant to lighting conditions. So whether you take the image during the daytime or nighttime, it doesn't matter. The image is going to look exactly the same, which makes processing on this imagery much more consistent, and the results be much more consistent as well.
Great, thanks, Roger. Okay, I have a question about the costs and the licensing option. So that's the $1 million question. We're selling a solution. It's an AI end-to-end solution where you can build your own geospatial program. So it's license-based. We have 1 year or pluri-annual contracts. You can have 1 to 5 users to start with. You have tech support, you have onboarding with customer success. However, the price will depend, on the one hand, on the complexity of the project, on the recurring imagery that you need, also the kind of data that we need to gather for you. If we need to gather SAR data, for example, prices can go up. If you need us to build the detectors and do all the backup work and provide a lot of tech support. But if you are interested, I suggest that you let your email in the comments and I will reach out to you and we can book a meeting together and discuss all that. So I have one for you, Roger. We are DJI Pic4D distributors in Latin America. Are you planning to have distribution channels? Oh, sorry, no, I will answer that. If you're interested, we can discuss that. We have been thinking about distributors. There are obviously a lot of aspects that we need to take into account on the technical side. So I'd suggest we get on a call, the two of us, and we can discuss further. But thank you for your question, Pedro. Okay, I'll take one last question. How do I know that trees haven't been chopped down illegally? It's so thank you for the question. It's pretty easy, actually. It's just a matter of counting trees. So if you're using drone imagery, in this case, it will be better in terms of resolution. So you go every week or every other week, you gather the imagery, and then the detectors know how to detect and count trees. And it will just count again on the same area from the same photos, and then it will just let you know the difference in numbers. So if you just a couple of trees have been chopped down, you will be alerted immediately.
If I can add on to that, we actually have
Yes,
a project with SGS, and that is exactly that project. It's illegal deforestation. And so there we're actually using, so it's at a much larger scale, it's over an entire country. And we're actually using satellite data. So it's not as accurate as the count, but you still see sort of the canopy coverage of the trees. And so if you compare, say for one small region, so you can divide your region of forest into a grid, for example, and then you compare one of these grid cells on a before image to the after image, and you compare the canopy coverage. And the canopy coverage is determined, as Samantha was saying, by the deep learning detector. And if they're different, or if the coverage has decreased, then that's a clear sign that deforestation has occurred. And then you send an alert to the proper authorities and they'll go take care of it.
Thanks, Roger. I have another question. Have you ever done road inspection of rocks, for example, after explosions in mining? We haven't, but maybe Roger, you can jump on this one.
Road inspection is interesting. We have had, as Samantha said, we haven't had directly this use case, but we have had a lot of pavement damage use cases. So we have basically inspecting things like cracks and other forms of damages on pavement. And technically for the machine learning model, this is quite easy because pavement tends to be a very uniform texture. So for the machine learning model, it's super easy to tell when something's off or something's different. So I imagine if you say after a storm, you flew a drone over the pavement and then looked for things that were not pavement basically, or like cracks or other damages, train detector on that, then you can basically correlate these damages with the storm that just happened. That's what I would do.
Yep. All right. Any other question? I think we're good for today. Well, thank you everyone for joining today, for taking the time to be with us to discuss geospatial intelligence in ESG. If you want to take a look at the demo that Roger showed you earlier, you can go to our website and then you click under ESG solutions. You also have another demo in deforestation that is available that you will probably enjoy very much. This webinar has been recorded, so we will send you a recorded version. I will write to you all personally to thank you and to catch up. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out. Both our emails are available here. And we look forward to hearing back from you and to the next webinar. Thank you very much and have a great day. Bye.